Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, picture this. One morning you wake up, check the news, and realize the value of your hard-earned rupees has dropped overnight. Prices have surged, rent has doubled, loans are choking small businesses everywhere, and you're left wondering, wasn't I just getting on my feet? Where did all my effort go? Right now, that danger isn't decades away. It's staring us in the face, and if you don't act today before the storm hits, you might get washed away. But if you do act, you can turn this crisis into the greatest opportunity of your lifetime. I'm here to tell you this isn't fear mongering, this is real. This is the alarm bell ringing, and this channel 0 to CEO has closed its eyes, looked at the facts, and confirmed the next financial crisis isn't coming. It's already on the doorstep when you look closely at the world right now. The warning signs aren't subtle, they're screaming, but the problem is most people don't hear them until it's too late. Every major financial crash in history has had clear signals before it hit. The issue is never the lack of signs. The issue is people thinking it won't happen to us. And that mindset is exactly what destroys families, businesses, and entire economies. Today, the cracks in the system are no longer hidden beneath technical charts or behind politicians' speeches. They're right in front of you. Rising inflation isn't a mystery, it's a message that the money in your pocket is quietly dying when everything from basic groceries to rent jumps in price, but your income stays frozen. That's not normal life, that's a system under pressure. And pressure like this always breaks something. But inflation is just the surface. Beneath it lies something even more dangerous, debt. When a nation runs on debt instead of productivity, decline is inevitable. It's like a household living on credit cards and hoping the bank never asks questions. But the bank always does. Governments do the same thing. They borrow, they print, they patch the economy with temporary fixes, and they hope people don't notice. Except now everyone is noticing, because the effects are hitting every home, every business, every paycheck. Then you have currency instability. When a currency weakens, it's not just an exchange rate changing, it's purchasing power evaporating. It means everything imported becomes more expensive. Medicine, fuel, technology, industrial materials, even food. Businesses suffer, costs rise, and eventually operations freeze. A weak currency is one of the clearest markers of an economy heading toward a crisis. History has proven this again and again. And let's talk about global slowdown. When the world economy slows, countries like ours get hit the hardest. We rely on exports, foreign remittances, and foreign investments. When those reduce, it's like oxygen being cut off from a system that's already breathing through a straw. You start seeing layoffs, businesses closing, industrial production falling, all signs of an economy losing strength. Once that momentum breaks, rebuilding is not easy. It takes years, sometimes decades. The most dangerous part, people still expect the system to fix itself. But economies don't fix themselves. Leaders do, businesses do, citizens do. If you're waiting for someone else to save you, you've already lost time. And time is the most valuable asset during financial uncertainty. Look at the stock markets, real estate, and global trade routes. Volatility everywhere. Investors are pulling back. Consumer confidence is dropping. When the wealthy start moving their assets into safer places, that's a signal. When businesses slow down hiring, that's a signal. When banks make it harder to get loans, that's a signal. When people start dipping into their savings just to survive the month, that's a signal. These aren't coincidences. They are symptoms of a system preparing to reset. Another sign that comes before every crash is optimism. Yes, optimism, when the majority still believes everything will be fine while the fundamentals are falling apart. That's when risk is highest. Before the 2008 crash, before the dot-com burst before the Asian financial crisis, people were confident. They believed the good times would continue forever. That illusion is always the final stage before collapse. You know what else is coming, the wave of defaults. When individuals can't pay loans, when businesses can't clear invoices, when governments struggle with interest payments, defaults start spreading through the system. And once defaults grow, the entire machine begins to shake. Banks tighten conditions, investors retreat, markets freeze. That's when the domino effect starts and the real crisis begins. But here's the truth nobody likes to admit. Crashes don't happen because the economy suddenly breaks overnight. Crashes happen because people ignore the warnings until the system has no choice but to reset. By the time the average citizen realizes what's happening, the wealthy have already moved their money, the corporations have already prepared, and the governments have already braced themselves. The only people left exposed are those who believed everything is okay. The signs are all here. High inflation, weak currency, global slowdown, rising debt, credit tightening, business strain, shrinking savings, and leadership uncertainty. These aren't random events. They're the ingredients of a perfect storm, and once they align, the impact is massive. But understanding these signs gives you power. If you see the crisis coming before everyone else, you're ahead. You can protect your money, your business, your future. You can prepare while others are asleep. That's how people survive these periods, and not just survive, but grow. Financial crises don't destroy everyone. They destroy the unprepared. The ones who see the signs early enough can turn this moment into opportunity. Because when the system resets, it creates new spaces, new markets, new demands, new gaps that only sharp, strategic minds can fill. You're getting the early alarm. The question is simple. Will you act now or wait until the shockwave hits? When a financial crisis hits, the first people to feel the burn aren't economists, politicians, or billionaires. It's the ordinary citizen trying to pay bills and the entrepreneur fighting to keep their business alive. They don't get early warnings, privileged information, or insider memos. They wake up one day and realize their lifestyle has silently become unaffordable. That moment, when your income stays the same but everything around you becomes expensive, is when the real panic sets in. And that's exactly where millions are heading right now without even knowing it. For the average person, the impact begins long before the news channels start shouting crisis. It starts with shrinking purchasing power. Your salary hasn't changed, but your grocery bill has doubled. Fuel prices shoot up, which pushes everything else up: transport, food, electricity, even school fees. You start cutting corners thinking it's temporary, but it's not temporary. It's the first stage of a bigger collapse. Eventually, people are forced to choose between necessities. Should I pay for medicine or should I pay for food? That's when the crisis stops being economic and becomes deeply personal. Savings, which people worked years to build, begin to vanish in real value. A person who saved 500 thinking it was security suddenly realizes that it buys half or even a quarter of what it used to. This is not losing money. This is losing time, effort, sacrifice, dreams. It hits mentally, emotionally, financially, everything at once. People feel robbed because they are being robbed silently through inflation and currency decline. The stress on families skyrockets, disagreements increase. Plans get postponed indefinitely: vacations, car purchases, home renovations, children's education. Everything is pushed into an uncertain future. People go from planning ahead to planning how to survive the next month. Some take loans thinking it will provide relief, but those loans become another trap. High interest rates make repayment almost impossible, and once debt enters a struggling household, it drains the life out of it. Then comes unemployment. In every crisis, businesses downsize, factories slow production, companies freeze hiring, jobs become rare, and competition becomes brutal. Suddenly, degrees don't matter, experience doesn't matter, connections don't matter. What matters is survival. An ordinary citizen who once felt secure in their job now feels like they are standing on thin ice, praying it doesn't crack beneath them. If the citizens struggle, imagine the entrepreneur, the person who creates jobs, takes risks, and keeps a part of the economy running. When the environment turns hostile, entrepreneurs feel it harder and faster than anyone else. Their costs explode overnight, raw materials become expensive, imported goods cost more, electricity bills jump, fuel prices hit logistics, and salaries need to be adjusted. But customers, they dry up. People stop spending, they buy less, travel less, invest less, and businesses watch their revenue shrink while expenses rise. That's a death sentence for most small businesses. Entrepreneurs start delaying payments to suppliers. Suppliers start demanding cash up front. Banks stop lending or tighten their requirements so much that only big corporations qualify. Small businesses, the backbone of any economy, get squeezed from all sides. Some try to hold on, borrowing money to keep afloat, but that debt becomes the anchor that drags them underwater. Many business owners face heartbreaking decisions: cut staff, reduce salaries, downsize operations, or shut down entirely. Imagine laying off someone you know has a family to feed. Imagine looking at your team, your people, and realizing you can't pay them next month. That emotional weight is something the world rarely acknowledges. The psychological impact is even deeper. Entrepreneurs who once felt confident and in control start losing sleep, losing motivation, losing direction. When someone has poured their life into a business and watches it crumble, not because of their mistakes, but because the system failed, that pain is different. It leaves a scar that stays for years. Yet, amidst all this turmoil, something else happens too. People adapt. Ordinary citizens begin exploring side hustles, freelancing, online earning, small scale trading. They stop depending on one income stream. Entrepreneurs start innovating, pivoting, cutting unnecessary expenses, digitizing operations, targeting new markets. Crisis forces creativity. It forces resilience. It forces reinvention. Many of the world's biggest companies today were born during financial crises. Why? Because crisis exposes real problems, and real problems need real solutions. People who can solve those problems rise faster during a crisis than in normal times. The ordinary worker becomes an entrepreneur. The struggling entrepreneur becomes a leader. The leader becomes an industry builder. But let's be clear, transformation only happens if people wake up early. Those who panic, freeze, complain, or wait for rescue get crushed. Those who observe, strategize, and take action survive and grow. A crisis doesn't care who you are. It won't spare you, your family, your business, or your future, but it will reward the ones who prepare. Ordinary citizens who adapt will come out stronger. Entrepreneurs who innovate will capture the new opportunities that emerge. The crash will impact everyone, but the outcome will depend entirely on how you respond. This is the moment that separates victims from visionaries. And you get to choose which side you stand on. Right now is one of those rare moments in history where the signs are all pointing in one direction, and anyone who's paying attention can see exactly what's coming. But here's the truth: only a small percentage of people will take action before the storm. The rest will wake up when it's already too late. That's why this exact moment, not tomorrow, not next month, is the most critical time to prepare. Because once the crisis hits full force, everything you should have done earlier becomes impossible to do. Most people make the same mistake. They prepare after the collapse, not before it. They start saving after prices have doubled. They start looking for extra income after their job becomes unstable. They start worrying about debt after interest rates have suffocated them. By then, preparation is not strategy, it's desperation, and desperation is the worst position to be in during a financial crisis. Right now, you still have time, you still have control, you still have options. Once the crisis peaks, those options shrink to almost nothing. You're standing at a crossroads. One path leads to getting crushed by what's coming. The other leads to surviving and even growing because you had the courage to act early. That difference is timing. Crisis preparation is all about timing. Too early looks unnecessary. Too late looks foolish. But right on time looks genius. And this moment right here, this is that moment. Look at the patterns. Inflation rising, global markets unstable, currency weakening, businesses losing momentum, and governments scrambling to maintain control. These are not normal cycles. These are indicators of an approaching structural shift. When the system starts shaking from multiple sides at once, that's when you know a major reset is around the corner. You don't wait for the official announcement. You prepare when the signs show, not when the news confirms. Think of crisis like a tsunami. You don't wait to see the wave before running to safety. You move when the water pulls back, when the signals show something massive is coming. Right now, the economic water is pulling back fast. This is your warning. This is your moment. But there's another reason this moment is critical. Opportunities are only available before chaos, not during it. During crisis, people sell assets at losses, businesses collapse, markets panic, and everyone is reacting emotionally. But before the crises, right now, that's when you can move strategically. Prices are still manageable, competition is still normal, and markets haven't locked up. You can build cash reserves, reduce debt, learn skills, pivot your business, diversify income, and strengthen your foundation. When things finally crash, all these moves act like armor. Without them, you're exposed. This moment is also important because once the crisis begins, the system itself restricts your ability to act. Governments impose capital controls, banks freeze loans, currency markets tighten, employers stop hiring. Investors withdraw, the environment becomes hostile to movement. Your choices shrink from 10 options to 1 or none. You will not be able to buy assets cheaply because nobody will be willing to sell without panic. You will not be able to find credit because banks will prioritize their own survival. You will not be able to grow your business because the demand will collapse. The window to prepare is open now, but it will close suddenly and without warning. Think about your family for a moment. When crisis hits, it hits them first. Children's education gets affected. Medical expenses become stressful. Food budgets stretch thin. Savings drain faster than you ever imagined. Waiting until the damage has already happened is like waiting for your house to catch fire before thinking about getting insurance. Preparation isn't about fear, it's about responsibility. The reason now matters is because momentum is still on your side. Every move you make today has a compounding effect. Reduce debt now and you free up cash flow later. Save money now and you get a cushion when the economy tightens. Learn a hive, You skill now and you secure an income even if your job disappears. Build a second income now and you protect your household against uncertainty. Start a side business now and it may become your lifeline when the main economy contracts. Most people will ignore the signs because the human brain is wired to believe that normal life will continue forever. But history proves the opposite. Every major economic shift catches the majority unprepared because they were busy living comfortably. They believed warnings were exaggerations until the day collapse became reality. Don't be like them. Don't wait for the moment when fear replaces logic and panic replaces opportunity. Right now is the calm before the storm. It looks stable enough that people feel safe, but if you listen closely, the foundations are cracking. The smart ones act during the cracks, not after the collapse. You don't prepare because you expect disaster. You prepare because you see the trajectory, and the trajectory is clear. This moment is critical because it might be the last stretch of stability you will get. The last stretch where you can still breathe, still plan, still move freely. Once chaos starts, your life becomes reactive instead of strategic. The people who act now will be the ones others look at years later and say, they were lucky. But it won't be luck. It will be preparation, timing, awareness, discipline, and courage. This is the moment the future will remember. The question is, how will you remember it, as the moment you acted, or the moment you hesitated? If there's one thing history has taught us, it's that preparation separates survivors from victims, especially when the financial system starts shaking. For individuals and small business owners, this is not a time for hope, it's a time for action. And the steps you take now will determine whether you thrive, barely survive, or get wiped out when the storm hits full force. The first thing anyone must do is diversify income streams. Relying on a single salary, a single client, or a single business product is a trap. In normal times, it might seem safe. During a crisis, it becomes a vulnerability. Look around. Those who survived past recessions weren't necessarily the wealthiest. They were the ones who had multiple ways to bring in cash. Freelancing, side businesses, online ventures, rental income, investments. Every extra stream adds a layer of protection. The goal is simple. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, because when one basket collapses, the others will keep you afloat. Next, control your expenses and eliminate unnecessary debt. Debt is like a hidden predator during a downturn. It doesn't wait for good times. High interest loans, credit card balances, personal loans for non-essential things, they all compound risk. Reducing debt frees up cash flow, and cash is king during uncertainty. At the same time, scrutinize every expense. Can subscriptions be paused? Can costs be renegotiated? Can operations be streamlined without hurting core revenue? A lean structure gives you agility, which is critical when the market shifts overnight. Build emergency savings, and don't just think in terms of a month or two. Think in terms of survival for 6 months to a year. This fund isn't meant for luxuries. It's meant to give you breathing room when your regular income falters. For small business owners, this might mean maintaining cash reserves to pay staff, suppliers, and overheads, even if revenue dips. For individuals, it's about covering rent, groceries, medical expenses, and basic bills. In a crisis, having liquidity separates stress from panic. Investing wisely is the next critical step. But this isn't about chasing hype or trying to get rich quick. It's about stability and long-term value. Assets that retain or grow their value despite economic fluctuations are your safest bet. For individuals, that might mean precious metals, real estate in strategic locations, or instruments backed by solid fundamentals. For businesses, it might mean investing in technology that reduces costs, in inventory that sells even in tough times, or in skills and training for employees that make your team more resilient and productive. The rule is simple. Every investment must either protect you or increase your ability to generate income. At the same time, focus on skill development and adaptability. Jobs vanish, markets shift, and industries transform faster than most people can react. By upgrading skills, learning new tools, and understanding trends, you make yourself indispensable. For entrepreneurs, this might mean learning new marketing strategies, digital operations, or alternative supply chains. For individuals, it might mean taking courses, developing freelancing skills, or acquiring certifications that increase employability. In times of crisis, knowledge becomes a survival tool. Skills are assets that no one can devalue overnight. Networking is another step that can't be ignored. No one survives in isolation. Strong connections with industry peers, mentors, clients, suppliers, and even competitors can provide critical support. Information flows faster than cash in a crisis, and knowing the right people can help you pivot, find opportunities, and avoid mistakes. Build relationships now while times are stable, because when the economy contracts, these connections will be invaluable. For small business owners, diversifying customer base and markets is essential. Relying on a handful of clients or a single demographic is dangerous. Explore new geographies, expand online, or target segments that are less affected by downturn. Businesses that understand demand patterns during crises and adjust accordingly survive longer. Those who cling to old methods get left behind. The key is flexibility. Your business must bend without breaking. Technology and automation also play a huge role. Processes that reduce manual effort, cut costs, and increase efficiency provide a buffer against falling revenue. The businesses that invest in automation, digital marketing, e-commerce, or supply chain optimization now will be positioned far ahead of competitors when the crisis hits. Individuals can benefit too by using technology to freelance, build online income streams, or access global markets. In an interconnected world, the right tools are as important as money in the bank. Finally, maintain mental resilience. A crisis is as much psychological as it is financial. Fear clouds judgment. Panic leads to mistakes. Stress crushes creativity. Individuals and entrepreneurs who cultivate discipline, strategic thinking, and patience handle shocks better. Meditation, routines, clear goal setting, and contingency planning all contribute to mental strength. Your mindset is the foundation. Without it, every other step can fail. The truth is simple. Those who take these steps now gain control. They turn fear into opportunity, risk into strategy, uncertainty into planning. Waiting until the crisis strikes is not an option. Every day of inaction increases exposure and reduces flexibility. But every day of preparation adds armor, builds skill, strengthens finances, and expands opportunity. This isn't theoretical advice. It's a blueprint followed by those who have survived every financial storm in history. Diversify income, cut debt, save cash, invest wisely, upgrade skills, expand networks, innovate in business, leverage technology, and strengthen mindset. Those who embrace these steps don't just weather the storm. They emerge stronger, leaner, and ready to capture what others lose. The window to act is open now, and it won't stay open forever. Every step you take today moves you closer to survival and success. Every step ignored is a step toward vulnerability. In moments like this, preparation isn't optional, it's survival. And execution separates winners from those who simply watch opportunity slip through their fingers. Right now, more than ever, resilience isn't just a personal trait, it's a necessity for anyone who wants to survive and thrive in uncertain times. Look around, economies are shifting, markets are volatile, and everyday life is becoming more unpredictable. For ordinary citizens, this isn't just about money, it's about security, family, and future planning. For entrepreneurs, it's about keeping a business alive, protecting employees, and staying competitive. The challenge isn't luck. The challenge isn't talent. The challenge is resilience, mental, financial, and strategic. and the ability to think several moves ahead when everyone else is reacting emotionally. Resilience begins with mindset. People panic during crises not because the situation is impossible, but because they are unprepared mentally. You have to train yourself to respond with clarity, not fear. That means accepting reality as it is, not how you wish it would be. Denial is expensive. Ignoring warning signs doesn't make them disappear, it makes them more dangerous. Strategic thinking begins with understanding the landscape, seeing patterns others ignore, and imagining the consequences of inaction. Those who succeed in turmoil don't do so by chance. They anticipate, adapt, and execute. Every major financial crisis in history has followed a pattern. Uncertainty rises, markets contract, and panic spreads faster than facts. Ordinary citizens feel powerless because they focus on what they cannot control: stock prices, inflation, or government decisions. Resilience means focusing on what you can control. It's budgeting with intention, managing debt with discipline, keeping savings liquid, and finding creative ways to protect and grow income. It's about building a buffer that allows calm decisions in chaotic times. For entrepreneurs, resilience takes on a broader meaning. It's about operational flexibility, maintaining cash reserves, diversifying revenue streams, and preparing contingency plans. A resilient business doesn't rely on a single client, supplier, or market. It can pivot quickly, adapt to new demand, and absorb shocks without collapsing. Strategic thinking in business isn't just about surviving. It's about positioning yourself so that when others falter, you gain advantage. That requires analysis, foresight, and the willingness to make difficult choices before they become urgent crises. Communication and leadership are also critical elements. Resilience isn't built in isolation. Families, employees, and communities all feel the ripple effects of financial stress. Leaders, whether in business, households, or informal networks, must communicate clearly, set expectations, and make decisions with confidence. Panic spreads faster than information, so your ability to remain calm, rational, and decisive creates stability around you. This is strategic thinking in action, not just reacting to problems, but shaping the environment through deliberate decisions and consistent behavior. Diversification is another key principle. For individuals, this means income, investments, and skills. For businesses, it means revenue, clients, and operational strategies. Diversification doesn't eliminate risk, but it reduces vulnerability and gives you options when things go wrong. Those who rely entirely on one source of stability, whether a job, a business product, or a single market, expose themselves to catastrophic consequences. Strategic thinking involves identifying these vulnerabilities now and addressing them before they become problems you can't fix. Resilience also requires proactive learning. Economic crises reveal gaps in knowledge, skills, and understanding. Those who survive and prosper use downtime to educate themselves, acquire new skills, and explore new opportunities. For individuals, it might mean freelancing, investing, or digital skills. For entrepreneurs, it could involve operational efficiency, digital transformation, or exploring new markets. The key is to anticipate where the demand will shift and position yourself ahead of the curve. Waiting for a crisis to pass before learning is a luxury you cannot afford. Mental discipline is as important as financial or operational preparation. Stress clouds judgment. Panic leads to bad decisions. The human brain is wired to prioritize short-term fear over long-term strategy. Training yourself to act deliberately under pressure is the essence of resilience. That includes setting priorities, establishing routines, and maintaining focus even when circumstances are chaotic. Those who master this skill make rational decisions when others act emotionally, and that's how they survive and thrive. Community is another pillar. While individual preparation matters, collective resilience amplifies strength. People who network, share knowledge, and support each other withstand shocks far better than isolated individuals. Collaboration creates opportunity, spreads risk, and allows resources to be leveraged effectively. Strategic thinking in a crisis isn't selfish. It involves understanding interdependencies and using them to create a buffer that benefits everyone involved. Finally, resilience is about vision. Crisis exposes weakness, but it also exposes opportunity. Those who think strategically look beyond immediate survival. They ask, how can I not just endure, but emerge stronger? Which skills, assets, or relationships can I leverage when others falter? Where will gaps in the market create openings for growth? Strategic thinkers don't just react, they anticipate, plan, and act decisively. They use chaos as a ladder to climb higher while others are stuck below. The window to build this resilience and strategic clarity is narrow. Once the full force of a crisis hits, options shrink, mistakes cost more, and panic spreads. This is the moment to act, not wait, to anticipate, not react, to build foundations that can absorb shocks rather than crumble under pressure. Mental toughness, operational flexibility, financial discipline, learning agility, strong relationships, and clear vision. These are not just skills, they are survival tools. When others freeze, complain, or hope for rescue, those who cultivate resilience and strategic thinking take control. They turn obstacles into opportunities, chaos into clarity, and fear into decisive action. And that's the difference between being crushed by the next financial wave and riding it to a position of strength and influence. Every choice made today builds the foundation for tomorrow. Delay is costly, action is decisive. The time to prepare, think, and strengthen is now, because history doesn't wait, and neither should you. So yes, the warnings are real. The danger is real, but so is the chance to rise. As I stand here today, I don't just warn you, I challenge you. Turn this crisis into your launchpad. Let this be the moment you decide, I will not be a victim of chaos, I will be the architect of my future. Because when others lose their footing, strong men and women build empires. When others panic, visionaries plan. And when others surrender, leaders rise. Today, you have the information, you have the power, you have the choice. Will you stand by and watch the collapse or build something greater from the ashes? Let's not just survive this crisis, let's conquer it. Together, welcome to Zero to CEO. Let's get to work.